Okay, so you want to run a private fire department. You picture yourself as the ultimate savior of the community. A fleet of shiny red engines speeding through the streets, sirens wailing, saving homes, and collecting fat checks from grateful citizens. It sounds like a noble, high-margin business. After all, fires are a certainty of nature, and when someone's life savings are turning to ash, they will pay almost anything to stop it. You imagine the cinematic version immediately, standing in a modern dispatch center, watching your crew extinguish a structural fire, and receiving praise from local officials. But here is what the promotional brochure doesn't show you. The lawsuit filed by a homeowner whose house burned to the ground because your crew was late or because they claimed your water pumps failed. The local county commission that threatens to revoke your operating license because they want to build a public municipal system. The astronomical cost of insuring high-risk fire engines and wildland firefighters, and the absolute public relations disaster that occurs when your engines pull up to a burning house, connect their hoses, and then stand by and watch it burn to the ground because the owner forgot to pay their annual $75 fee. The private firefighting industry is one of the most misunderstood and controversial sectors in modern business. In the public imagination, fire protection is a fundamental government service, funded by taxes. But in reality, large swaths of the United States, particularly in unincorporated rural areas and high-hazard wildfire zones, rely entirely on private for-profit operators. Some of these companies operate on a subscription model, charging individuals a fee to protect their homes. Others contract directly with massive insurance conglomerates, protecting multi-million-dollar estates. To understand how this business works, we have to look at the numbers. The capital expenditure, or CAPEX, to launch a private fire department is substantial. You cannot simply buy a standard pickup truck. A refurbished structural fire engine costs between $150,000 and $300,000. An off-road brush truck for wildland fires costs upwards of $200,000. You need specialized turnout gear, hoses, ladders, thermal cameras, and breathing apparatus, adding another $50,000 per firefighter. A basic station house with vehicle bays, training facilities, and water storage will run between $1 and $3 million. Once your infrastructure is set, you face the operating expenses, or OPEX. Professional firefighters are highly skilled, dangerous labor. In the private sector, wildland crew members expect daily rates of $300 to $600, while captains and chiefs cost significantly more. But your biggest OPEX drain is not labor. It is insurance. General liability, commercial auto for emergency vehicles, and workers' compensation for high-hazard environments are notoriously expensive. A small private department can easily pay $50,000 to $100,000 annually in premiums before responding to a single call. To survive, you need a reliable revenue model. In rural, unincorporated areas, this usually takes the form of the subscription model. You charge homeowners an annual protection fee, typically between $75 and $150. If they pay, you put a marker on their mailbox and respond to their emergencies. If they do not pay and their house catches fire, you do not respond. If the fire threatens a paying neighbor's property, you will show up to protect the neighbor, but you will literally let the non-subscriber's house burn. This model is a public relations minefield. In 2010, in Obion County, Tennessee, a private fire department stood by and watched a family's home burn to the ground because they had not paid the $75 fee. The family offered to pay the fee on the spot, but the fire chief refused, stating that if they accepted late payments, no one would pay in advance. The story went viral, sparking national outrage. From a cold business perspective, the chief was right. The subscription model collapses if residents can wait until their house is on fire to buy protection. But from a brand perspective, the company was ruined. Because the residential subscription model is politically volatile and has thin margins, the real wealth in this industry is found in the commercial sector. Specifically, contracting with massive property and casualty insurance companies. High-end insurers like Chubb, AIG, and Pure insure multi-million-dollar estates in wildfire-prone regions like California and Colorado. If a $10 million mansion burns down, the insurer faces a massive payout. To prevent this, they contract with private wildfire defense firms. The business model of these private wildfire defense firms is built on proactive mitigation. Companies like Wildfire Defense Systems, or WDS, contract directly with insurance carriers. They do not wait for a 911 call. Instead, when a wildfire breaks out, the company uses proprietary tracking software to identify insured properties in the path of the flames. They deploy private fire engines to the homes, clear brush, install temporary sprinkler networks, and coat the structures in fire retardant gel. The economics of this insurance-funded model are spectacular. An insurance carrier will gladly pay a private firm $10,000 to $20,000 to protect a single estate, because doing so prevents a $10 million total loss claim. For the private fire company, a single wildfire deployment can generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue from a single carrier. Because they are funded by insurance premiums rather than local taxes, they do not face the public backlash of letting non-paying homes burn. But this model introduces a massive conflict, the moral hazard of unequal protection. During major California wildfires, private fire engines have been seen bypass burning middle-class homes to spray retardant gel on the mansions of wealthy policyholders. This creates a two-tiered emergency response system, a public sector that is underfunded and overwhelmed, and a private sector that reserves elite protection for the wealthy. Furthermore, operating a private department means navigating complex regulatory and legal landscapes. You must secure mutual aid agreements with local municipal departments, obtain permits to access public water sources, and coordinate with state forestry agencies during major incidents. If your crew blocks a public road or interferes with a municipal response, you face heavy fines. If you fail to stop a fire and the client's property is destroyed, their insurance company will search for any operational error to sue you for the loss. Let's build a realistic first-year scenario for a private fire department operating in a high-risk wildfire corridor. The startup capital is significant. Licenses, legal setup, and station leasing cost $200,000. Purchasing 3 refurbished wildland engines, turnout gear, and equipment costs $750,000. Total initial CAPEX is $950,000. You launch a subscription service targeting 5,000 rural homes, charging $100 annually. You secure a 40% capture rate, signing up 2,000 subscribers and generating $200,000 in recurring revenue. You also secure a standby contract with a regional utility provider to protect their substations during fire season, worth $150,000. Your total revenue is $350,000. Your operating expenses are high. Payroll for a chief and a rotating crew of 6 firefighters during the 6-month fire season is $180,000. Insurance premiums cost $80,000. Fuel, vehicle maintenance, and equipment depreciation cost $50,000. Water access fees and office administration cost $30,000. Your total OPEX is $340,000. In your first year, you clear a net profit of just $10,000. You have barely broken even, and your capital is tied up in depreciating emergency vehicles. This is the subscription trap. You bear all the operational risk and liability of emergency response, but your revenue is capped by the willingness of local residents to pay. Now, let's look at the alternative scenario, the insurance mitigation play. Instead of chasing residential subscriptions, you use your 3 engines to contract with high-end insurers. You receive a basic retainer of $50,000 per carrier across 5 carriers, generating $250,000. During an active fire season, your crews are deployed for 60 days total across multiple fires. You bill the insurers $6,000 per engine day. Your 3 engines generate $1,080,000 in deployment revenue. Your total revenue is $1,330,000. Your operating expenses increase because of constant deployment. Payroll rises to $300,000, fuel and maintenance rise to $100,000, and your insurance premium increases to $120,000. Your total OPEX is $520,000. After subtracting your expenses, you clear a net profit of $810,000. Your return on investment is over 80% in your first year. You have successfully aligned your private force with the balance sheets of massive insurance companies, turning fire protection into a high-margin financial asset. This is the final verdict on the business of running a private fire department. The subscription model of protecting individual homes is a low-margin, politically volatile trap that leaves you vulnerable to public outrage and legal liability. The real wealth in this industry is built by operating as a financial risk shield for the insurance sector. The people who survive long-term are not the ones who love fighting fires. They are the ones who manage regulatory risk, optimize their deployment logistics, and understand that in the business of catastrophe, the most valuable tool is not the water hose. It is the insurance contract. To fully appreciate how we arrived at this system, we must examine the history. Long before modern insurance firms and subscription agreements, the very concept of private firefighting was born out of pure capitalism and opportunism. In ancient Rome, there was no municipal fire department. If a building caught fire, it simply burned to the ground. This vacuum was exploited by Marcus Licinius Crassus, a Roman politician who went on to become the richest man in the empire. Crassus did not build a fire brigade to save Rome out of civic duty. He built a private army of 500 trained slaves equipped with buckets and axes. His business model was simple, ruthless, and highly effective. When a fire broke out in a Roman neighborhood, Crassus and his brigade would march to the scene. But instead of immediately fighting the flames, Crassus would seek out the owner of the burning building. He would stand in front of the roaring fire, listening to the screams of the tenants, and make a cash offer to buy the building and the land beneath it. Because the property was currently turning to ash and was worth virtually nothing to the owner, Crassus would offer a ridiculously low price, pennies on the dollar. If the owner refused, Crassus would turn his back and let the building burn. If the owner accepted and signed over the deed, Crassus would signal his slaves, who would immediately extinguish the fire. Crassus didn't stop there. Once he owned the burning property, he would also negotiate with the owners of the adjacent buildings. He would warn them that the fire was about to spread to their homes and offer to buy their properties at similar fire sale prices. Using this predatory tactic, Crassus acquired vast swathes of Roman real estate, rebuilt the structures using cheap slave labor, and leased them back to the public, creating a massive real estate empire. This Roman model represents the extreme end of privatized emergency services, a system where catastrophe is not an emergency to be resolved, but an investment opportunity to be captured. While modern laws prevent the direct extortion practices of Crassus, the underlying economic logic remains identical. The private firefighter's primary customer is not the person in danger, but the entity holding the financial liability. Today, that entity is the property and casualty insurance carrier. To understand why insurance companies are willing to pay private wildfire defense firms tens of thousands of dollars, we must look at the economics of modern wildfire damage. In California, Colorado, and Oregon, the combination of suburban sprawl into wildland areas and shifting climate patterns has resulted in unprecedented insurance losses. A single wildfire can destroy thousands of luxury homes, resulting in billions of dollars in claims that can bankrupt a mid-sized insurer. When a major insurer like Chubb or AIG issues a policy on a $10 million estate in Malibu or Aspen, they are taking on a massive financial liability. If that mansion is destroyed, the insurer must pay to rebuild it, replace the high-value art and assets inside, and cover the owner's temporary housing costs. The total payout can easily exceed $15 million. To protect their balance sheets, these insurers have realized that spending $20,000 on proactive wildfire defense is a minor expense. This is where the private wildfire defense firm enters the transaction. A company like Wildfire Defense Systems acts as a subcontracted risk management resource. They monitor satellite-based thermal imaging feeds and real-time wind pattern data to track active wildfires. When an incident threatens an area, WDS cross-references the fire's path with the insurer's policy database. If a policyholder's home is within the projected burn zone, WDS dispatches a private structural protection engine. Once on site, the private crew does not wait for the fire to arrive. They implement a process known as structure hardening. They clear combustible vegetation and wood piles from the perimeter, seal vents to prevent embers from entering the attic, install temporary sprinkler systems connected to swimming pools or independent water tanks, and spray the entire exterior of the mansion with a thick layer of biodegradable fire retardant gel. This gel acts as a thermal barrier, preventing the wooden structures from igniting even when exposed to direct flames or extreme radiant heat. In many cases, a mansion coated in this gel will stand completely untouched, while the surrounding forest and adjacent unprotected properties are burned to the ground. For the insurance company, the investment has successfully saved them a multi-million-dollar payout. However, this commercial model is not without its operational and regulatory hurdles. Private firefighting crews must operate within the complex incident command system established by state and federal forestry agencies. During a major wildfire, public agencies like Cal Fire control access to the burn zones. A private fire truck cannot simply drive past police barricades without authorization. Private firms must secure specific credentials, register their vehicles and personnel, and coordinate their movements with the public incident commander. If a private crew operates without coordination, they risk interfering with public suppression efforts, blocking evacuation routes, or drawing on limited water supplies that municipal crews need. This has led to tense standoffs between public fire chiefs and private contractors, resulting in regulatory crackdowns and strict credentialing laws. Furthermore, the liability is extreme. If a private crew sprays retardant gel on a mansion, but the home burns down anyway, the insurer will audit the entire deployment, searching for any sign of negligence or mechanical failure to recoup their losses through litigation. Ultimately, the business of running a private fire department highlights the stark division in modern emergency services. The residential subscription model remains a public relations nightmare and a financial trap. It forces you to operate as a local utility, chasing tiny annual fees from reluctant residents while bearing the heavy overhead of structural fire engines and full-time personnel. The moment you enforce your rules and let a non-subscriber's house burn, you invite public outrage and regulatory scrutiny that can destroy your business overnight. In contrast, the commercial insurance model allows you to operate as a high-margin corporate contractor. By aligning your operations with the balance sheets of multi-billion-dollar insurance conglomerates, you turn firefighting into a structured financial service. You are no longer selling safety to the public, you are selling loss prevention to corporate treasurers. In this high-stakes industry, the successful operators are those who understand that the spreadsheet is more important than the siren, and that the ultimate weapon against fire is not water, but the contract.